Alright, welcome back. I'm here in Lightroom and I have a stacked file of M51, the Whirlpool Galaxy from the other night. There's about 4 to 4.5 hours of data in this stack, and I'm just going to do a quick brief edit of it. So I do most of my editing in Photoshop, and I haven't made the jump to Pixinsight yet, although I'm considering it. I tried Star Tools for a little bit, and it was just too kind of clunky and slow for me. So I went back to Photoshop, and recently I've started doing my initial stretch in Lightroom, just using mainly the exposure slider and the highlights and whites and reducing chromatic aberration and doing my initial crop. Just it's really easy to do in Lightroom. So let's get to it. So we got our really dark stacked file here, and I'm gonna bump the exposure up about 3.5 stops. So there we go, and there's our M51 and our green color cast and our border issues. So let's go ahead and crop that. Let's drop the highlights a little bit and whites a little bit, and we might as well take down the sharpening right now and remove chromatic aberration. That'll do too much. But that's it for now in Lightroom, and we'll come back in here later on as we get further along in the editing using the camera raw filter. Then we'll use some of these other adjustments for local contrast and kind of some color issues and whatnot. So let's go and edit this in Photoshop with Lightroom adjustments. Here we are in Photoshop, and we've got our green cast, and let's duplicate our background, Control J, and we could get rid of this color cast with curves or levels in the individual color channels, but since I have the Hostel Vista Green plugin, let's just go ahead and run it once on medium. And so there we are, and now we're a little bit blue, but we'll work on that a little bit later. I like to set a black point so I can kind of monitor it up here. Monitor my background color balance. Usually in a more complex image, I would use this threshold slider to figure out, where the blackest blacks are, and I would probably do one for a white point too, figure out where that is, but don't really need it in this image. It's not really too much of a gradient here. I use flats. Now I'm just gonna find a spot without any stars and drop a black point. And you can see over here on the left of the screen the RGB, and yep, our blue is high, and our green is high, and our red is at 49. So we can drop all those down. You can do it in curves, you can do it in levels. Let's do it in levels. And we could start with just the kind of main slider, the RGB slider, and bring all three channels down a little bit, and maybe like, let's want to go to quite that. So red's at 30. So let's get green down there. And blue. Nope, not that far. Alright, so we'll probably go a little bit more on blue. Well, let's leave it there for now. This isn't an exact painstaking edit, so, and that's much better. So that's where we were. That's with before we took care of the green and kind of blue right there. And now we have a nice kind of dark gray, really dark gray background, and you can see some of the blues in the spiral arms looking pretty good. Not bad. Okay, let's do a curves adjustment. You know, a lot of people that I've watched on YouTube, they'll do a really extreme curve like this, and then they'll bring it down here, and then they'll drop that down to protect the highlights. You could do that. I've done that on other images, but on this particular one, what I did is use the little up and down finger thing here, and then we zoom in on M51, and then just click and hold on something that you want to brighten, and just push up on your mouse, and it will kind of target that particular point that you clicked on in the image. And then now we'll just do a contrast curve. So this would be like an S curve, and then I'm just going to click on a darker spot that I want to drop down, maybe this dark lane in the galaxy right there. Let's go outside. So let's get rid of that point. That's better. And we could mess around with it all day, but then I'm going to just drop this down a little bit, and maybe even bring that down a smidge. Just to, here's our star, our fat star right there, and it did get pretty big. Okay. Well, I think I might just mask this adjustment in so it doesn't affect my background too much, or at all, actually. So use a brush, and we're at 47%. And let's go down a little 40 and just paint in that adjustment. It's really just the galaxy, which is such a small part of this frame, since it's so small. That's really what we're concerned about. And the background, we just want it to be balanced and dark, but not too dark. So there's our galaxy with that adjustment. Okay, now I'm just going to do some micro contrast adjustments, and I like to use the Nik Effects plugins from time to time for micro contrast. You could do it in curves, you could do it in levels, you could do it in camera raw, but I like using these. Sometimes, well, a lot of times I would use tonal contrast. And this is another adjustment that I will mask in to just galaxy. So let's just kind of get an idea. The highlights adjustment doesn't do anything. The mid-tone adjustment does a little bit. And shadow adjustment does quite a bit. That's not too bad. I'm kind of mainly worried about just how it blends in around the galaxy, because galaxy is where we want this adjustment really to be seen, and you can kind of see it's giving off kind of a dark halo around it. So that's why it's gonna get masked in. But I think I'm gonna use Pro Contrast, and I'm gonna set a control point here in the Galaxy, and then you can adjust the size of it. So let's try that, where it mainly just encompasses M51, and let's go 13%. Do this one. Yeah, I like that. So that's pretty good, and it gets M51's little friend down here, and it's not really doing anything crazy as far as making any halos. But let's see what happens if we make the control point a little bit smaller. So there's off, there's on, there's off, there's on. So we're not getting as much of an effect on that little guy down there. Let's leave it at that, and then we'll paint this adjustment in too. And then let's use detail extractor as well, and we'll set another control point. Let's just do it right in the core. So this, you can see, is affecting a lot more outside right now of outside of the galaxy. So let's shrink that down. Off, on, off, on, off, on. Looks pretty good. We can move it around. It brightens it up a little bit more there. Okay, I think we'll go with that. And I don't know if this contrast adjustment does anything. We'll add on a little bit, maybe 12%, and get a little bit of saturation, 9%. Then you can mess with these radius too, and that sometimes gives it a different look. So there's fine, normal. So fine, we get a lot more darker lanes in there. That's kind of cool. Normal, just overall brighter, and large even more so. Let's just stick with normal. You don't have to debate about it all day. Okay, there is our image with our two kind of local contrast adjustments. It's quite a significant change. So let's zoom in and see if it's doing anything we don't really want it to do. Nothing horrible, but let's throw a mask on it anyway and paint it in. So down here on the right adds a mask, and then the mask will start off as white, so it doesn't do anything. If you hit Control I, it will invert that mask to black, and then we can use a white brush to paint in our effect. And we have a brush with 0 hardness. Let's drop it down to like 36. go over the main portion of M51. Make sure we get that adjustment to come through. There's our before, there's our after, before, after. If we want, we could mess with the opacity. We think we did too far, but like I said, this isn't, I'm not aiming for any kind of masterpiece here. It's just a quick edit, and it looks pretty good to me. So okay, let's try to bring out some of the color in M51, the blues. I don't think I'll be able to bring out the red, the hydrogen alpha that you often see in images of M51. But next time I go back to shoot this target, hopefully I'll have a hydrogen alpha filter, and I can try to get some of that to add in. So let's go down to selective color, and let's just go to our blues and drop the yellows, and up the cyan, and throw a little magenta in there, and let's bump it back up a bit too. So it's very subtle. You probably won't be able to see it on your screen, but I can barely see the change in mine. So let's do that with cyan also. And again, it's really subtle. One other thing we can do is we could do let's do this. Let's do a color range selection. So I went up here to select color range. It brings up this box, and I'm just going to do sample colors. It brings up the eyedropper. I'm going to click on the blues here, and then you can mess with the fuzziness slider to affect that selection. I'm just going to leave it kind of where I was. And now I'm just going to do saturation adjustment, and it's really going to just target some of the more bluer parts of M51, and it's going to be pretty subtle too, but I think I can make it out more than the selective color adjustment we did. So I'm going to do 25. That's actually looking pretty good. I like that. All right, so we'll just leave it at that. Now let's go into Camera Raw. So we'll do a Control-Alt-Shift-E, and that makes a stamped layer here of everything below it. And we'll go up to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and we'll just mess around with the sliders here, see what looks good. So contrast, giving a little bit more pop to M51 and darkening our background a little bit. It's 20 on contrast. Looks pretty good. It's a little subtle. Sometimes we could drop our shadows a little bit, or our blacks. Just do a little bit. -4. We could add in some clarity. Let's get closer here. So this is a clarity adjustment. Nothing too crazy. 15 on clarity, and then dehaze. Let's see, five or so. Let's throw in some vibrance. You can definitely see that in those spiral arms. 16, yeah, 13 on vibrance, and saturation, you can see that. Sure, let's go with 9. It's a little bit more than I want, but whatever, just a quick edit. Let's see if the HL cell sliders get us anywhere. And that blue one really starts making these blue areas blue. I think we got enough blue. I don't know if we'd be able to bring out any hydrogen alpha or not. These spiral arms. Looks like the magenta slider is doing a little bit, so let's leave it there at around 30, and let's try our reds. A little bit. And let's go into, this is actually a really clean image as far as noise. I was using the QHY 168C, which I've had for a couple months now, and it's really great. It's the same sensor in the Nikon D5100, which seems pretty old, but yeah, it looks good. Here's very minimal noise in this image, but let's do a little noise reduction anyway. I don't think we even really need it. And on other images, more complex images, I would, if I was going to do noise reduction in Lightroom, I would make some sort of mask that wouldn't affect the main target. But I don't think these adjustments are really gonna do much to hurt it on this image. So 22 on color noise, and let's see what luminance noise does. 23. It takes a little bit of detail out of M51, but not a whole lot. So I'm not even gonna worry about it. Cool. That looks all right. So run that. There's our before. There's our after. And I'm going to do Control-Alt-Shift-E. Just going to stamp another layer and go back into Camera Raw. And I'm going to go to the split toning section. Let's see if there's any more color adjustments I can do. I'm going to do a side by side. So I'm going to take this hue up to kind of the region where the blue and the magentas start to transition, and then maybe a fifth of the way up on saturation. So you can see now this is the after. Definitely some more magenta than we want on here. But then when you compare it to the before, this kind of looks like it has more yellow or green in the lighter parts of the spiral arms. So I'm going to go to this balance here and see if I can find kind of a medium. Okay, so if I go all the way to the left, the after is looking more like the before, and if I bump it up a little bit, so this is pretty subtle, but that looks good right there. So it's not too magenta-ish in these lighter parts of the arms, and it's not too yellow or greenish as in the before. So I like that. Let's go with let's go with it. Okay, so that one's pretty subtle. There's our before, here's our after, and let's see our black points. Looks like our green might be a little high here, so let's go to levels and go to our green channel and knock that down 1. So they're all at 26. Let's zoom out a little bit and see how that changed things. Yeah, yep, you can definitely see that we're on the green side before. Now we're kind of on the red side. Let's go with the blue channel. Let's drop a 1 in there. Now we're definitely blue. So let's go back to all even at 26 and just see what happens when we drop this main slider. Maybe just 3 ticks. So it's going to darken our overall image, and it'll kind of make, at least to my eyes, make whatever color cast there was there, and it was slightly red after we even them out. So this kind of makes it a little bit harder to see that cast, at least to my eyes. So I'm just going to go with it. Then I'm going to do another Control-Alt-Shift-E, stamp that. And I have Noel Carboni's Astronomy tools. I know a lot of people use these. And some of these kind of do what we did earlier as far as local contrast. So I'm going to run the make stars smaller and see if that does anything. Okay, so that took quite a while. That was the make stars smaller action. So let's do a before and after. It's really subtle. I can barely see the change on my monitor. I also want to run the increase star color action because we have some cool reddish orange stars, and there's some little bit of blue on some of these too. So let's run that one. Okay, that was increase star color, and that's also very subtle, but I can definitely see it mainly on kind of these smaller orangish stars. Like this one here, I can definitely tell. So I might even run that twice, but since this is just kind of a quick run through, we'll just leave it at that. And then I would like to do local contrast enhancement, and maybe this one might get painted in, masked in. So if I run this and I like what it does, I would probably throw on a mask and then black out this portion over M51, and then go back with a white brush and then brush in a little bit, parts of it. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so that was local contrast enhancement, and this one's definitely well, yeah, it's pretty noticeable. It's kind of making it a little crunchy. So like I was saying, I'll throw a mask on this. So right now, got a white mask. All those adjustments, the make stars smaller, increase star color, and local contrast enhancement are coming through. So I don't want to mess with anything that happened with the stars. I just want to mess with this. So I will take a black brush, and I could just take a brush with low opacity and brush out some of it, or I could brush out all of it and then go back over it again with a white brush. Which I think that's what I'll do. I'll just get this up and I will mask out the local contrast enhancement adjustment. Let's just make sure I add in any halos around Galaxy by doing that. Well, let's go back up and then let's be more careful with our black brush because yeah, I'm a little worried about adding in, if I just go all over like this, worried about adding in some faint kind of halo around this entire galaxy. Okay, so here we go. And let's drop our opacity back down to like 40-ish with the white brush. And let's just go over these arms a little bit. Okay, we'll leave it at that. And let's zoom out. And our background is still balanced 23, 23, 23 for RGB. It's a little, you don't want your background to be too dark. It's not inky black, but let's throw in a levels curve and just see what happens if we. It's a little too bright. So here's our before, here's our after. We kind of made that background a little bit brighter. Let's just leave it how it was. So, alright, that's basically it. I don't really do too much as far as sharpening my deep sky images. I think when I have before, I would use the high pass filter, but this is kind of an actions panel by Tony Kuiper. These are luminosity masks and a lot of your Photoshop tools all grouped together here really neatly. And it has some other actions like web sharpening. And I'll usually, any image that I process, whether astro or landscape or whatever, I'll make a web-sized version that's about 1600 pixels on its widest dimension. And this also does sharpening routine with it too. So this is what I would usually post on Facebook or whatever. So let's hit OK. And there's our image right there. And that looks pretty decent. From where the image is right now, there looks like there's quite a bit of decent detail in these spiral arms. We've got some nice blue color. We don't really have any of the red from hydrogen alpha. Maybe I can, if I get a hydrogen alpha filter, I can do some, collect some HA data and maybe add that in later on down the road. But most of our stars are pretty small, pretty round, not perfect. This one is a little fat, but we can live with that. We got some decent color in some of these stars too, some nice oranges and a couple of faint blue stars. So our background's nice and balanced. We don't have any really noticeable vignetting or gradients. So yeah, this looks like a pretty decent image for shot out in my backyard. 2-minute exposures. They had I don't know, 100, 150, 175, 200 exposures. I did 15 flat frames. I didn't use any dark frames. Noise is very minimal. I'm pretty happy with it for such a small target, and I shot it at 952 millimeter focal length with an Explorer Scientific 127 millimeter refractor, and like I said, the QHY 168C, which is an APS-C size 16 megapixel sensor, which would have gave me an initial field of view of like 1400 some millimeters, and then we cropped in a little bit as well. So, yep, I'm pretty happy with this. Hopefully, this quick, brief overview of my workflow was helpful to some of you. I know it's not the most complex workflow. There's a lot of other things I could have done probably to make this better, but I like doing astrophotography, but I don't like killing myself in the editing process. And sometimes that can be the case when you're just get so sucked into the editing, trying to remove gradients and keep stars from floating and extract detail without creating too much noise. And then it just, some people like doing that, but it can get to be a pain in the ass, if you get sucked in for too long. So, I mean, doing this, an edit like this took like, if you include the stacking process, a half hour or less. So I'm happy with that. More time collecting data outside. That's always good. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And thanks for watching.